A drip irrigation system is an important part of your setup if you want to water your containers quickly and regularly without any additional effort on your part. But what if you have to add containers to your existing system? Can you do that? Is it difficult to do? I'll answer all those questions, plus I'll show you exactly how I'm doing this to my system in this video. If that sounds good to you, let's get started. This is everything that I'll need for this extension of the irrigation system. And I want to give you a little bit of a background on what you're looking at here. If you did not already look at the video where I installed this system back in April, go ahead and look at that video first, or make sure you get around to it, because I will be mentioning a lot of the things that I talked about there. You'll see me set up the entire system then. So now today I am extending and adding on to that system. So I just want to go back and briefly show you what came with this. This is the Drip Depot Deluxe Container Gardening Kit. And these are all the bits and bobs that come with it. The cost of this kit was $55.71. I also got a hose end timer for it, and I'll show you that timer. That was $51. So the total cost of this initial system was $111. You don't have to have the timer. So if you just want the drip irrigation kit, it's $55, which I believe that deluxe kit was set up to handle 30 containers. So all these goodies over here came with that system. Those are the drip emitters right here. These are the elbow connectors. So if you have to go around a corner, you use that. This is just a through connector. Let's say you have two ends of a hose and you want to connect those just in a straight line, you would use those. These are your T connectors. So we'll be using a lot of those, because these that are in line with each other are your main irrigation line, and this is where we're going to put the container line. These are just end plugs that end a line. So at the end of the line, you have to do something, and you just pop one of these guys on the end. And then these are stakes where you will just put this down into your container, and it literally holds your drip emitter where you want it. So that's handy. Now, this kit also came with 100 feet of this 1/4 inch distribution tubing right here. I bought more of this from Lowe's because I used almost everything I had. This little bit right here is all I have left. And obviously it's not enough to connect all the containers that I need to connect. I have about 3 containers on that side that need to be connected. And then I have, oh goodness, at least 3 or 4 over here that need to be connected. So I needed to buy more line, and that's what I did. This was about $11 from Lowe's, so not bad. That's 100 feet. So I want you to see all of this. You're also going to need scissors, because you'll be cutting this line. You'll probably need gloves, because you'll be forcing the two ends of this line back together through those connectors, and it can hurt your fingers when you do it over and over again. So I like to use gloves to make sure that my hands are able to do it. Now we're cutting the line. This tubing, and we're putting it back together with connectors. If this distribution line had been 1/2 inch thick and what we were attaching was this 1/4 inch, then we could just poke holes with a hole punch that would come with the kit, and then you could just punch a hole in the 1/2 inch line so that you could put the more narrow line into it. But because the distribution line and the line to the containers is the same diameter, we just have to cut the whole line and then put it back together with the connectors. So that's why we don't have a hole punch for this. So for each container, we need the following, and we're going to need this each time. So if you want to, you can lay this out first. You need the amount of line that you'll need to get from your main line down to your container, and that just means you'll have to measure how long you want the line. You need 1 drip emitter. Of course, if you want to add more, you can do that. This side here that is pointed, that's the end that goes into the line, and you'll see that when we do that up close. And then you'll need a stake if you want to use those for each one. And so you need that for each container. So I'm going to get going on this I will do a voiceover to explain what I'm doing while I'm doing it. I won't be able to explain it as I'm actually doing it because I'm not that good. And this, I want to explain this. I want to explain this before I get started. This is 1/4 inch line that actually has drip emitters. It has drip emitters in it. You can see here, there's a hole right here. And then a foot long later, there's another hole. These are 1 gallon per hour drip emitters that actually it's just drip line, right? And so if you have an in-ground garden or you have a large raised bed and you just have a large expanse that you need to water, that is perfect for that use. And I actually use that down below in the garden. You've seen my videos before, then you know in the patio garden, there's a lower level. This is the upper level, but there's a lower level below, and it's just a long 2 foot wide by about 20 foot long bed. And I have that in that bed. But because I have containers here, like these roses here, lettuce, all these goodies here that you see, these guys are all connected to this line right here. And you can see this in action, right? This is the main line. This is the T connector. This is the line here. Then you'll see the stake. Let me just show you a better view of this. This is what I have here. And that stake holds the drip emitter where I want it. And so I measured this feeder line based on where the container was and how close it was to this main line. Okay, these are the pots that were installed. They were along this row when I first started. These I added later, and that tree I added later. So that's a Japanese maple that's kind of being taken over by a bunch of melons and watermelons and whatnot. I'm going to add those to the system on this side. And then over here, I'm adding these 3. This is my autumn joy sedum that something is eating. These are my spent tulips, or not tulips, but my spent lilies that will go out into the landscape, and I will use these containers for something else. You can see also while we're at it, that is my drip irrigation system there that's tied into my hose bib. It's connected to the hose bib. There's the, hold on. That's the bib, that's the timer. I also have an irrigation or a fertigation, so I can put fertilizer in there. That is the line that's the line that's coming off, and it comes right up here. Okay, it's a 1/4 inch line. So I will need to cut here for this container. I need to cut here for this container. I need to cut here for this one. So as you can understand and you can imagine, I need to make sure I don't drop this main line, because if I drop it, it's going to be unfortunate. So I just want to make sure I keep it where it needs to be. So I can't talk to you while I'm doing that, because again, I'm not that good. So here I am, I'm walking over to the first set of containers, and I'll just be laying this down so that it's handy. It was that same setup that you saw from before. And this gives you a bird's eye view of exactly how long it takes to assemble this. Now, because I'm up high and I don't want to drop that line, it's going to be really important for me to get a good grip on both ends after I cut it. So that's what you'll see me doing here, is just making sure that I'm holding both ends, figuring out the best way to do it. There we go. We've made the cut. And now we just put the connector in, and we are just ramming this in as much as we can. And so that's why the gloves are handy. You can also, if the plastic is really cold, you can have a second person put a lighter flame under that plastic, very carefully, of course, and make sure that is softened up just a bit, and it will make that insertion a breeze. And I'm showing you here that is inserted on one end. It really is that quick. And now we're taking that barbed in, and we're the barbed end, and we're going to put it on the other side. So we are just we made a cut, and now we're just fixing that cut. But we're adding to it this other line. And so here's the line. This was the last bit that I had from the kit. I had 100 feet with the first kit, and so that's the last bit I have. And I didn't cut it first. So here we go. We're adding this in. This is going to go down into my container, And so we're just jamming that baby in there. And that's all you do. That's it. Technically, we have created our connection. And now I'm just making sure it is connected as far up as it can go so that it does not come off with any pressure once it starts. So here we go. We're all done. It's that simple. Now we're going to just do a quick measurement. Oh, no, actually, first here, I'm just going to pop this baby into the container so you can see what's required for that. Now I'm going to cut this. So a brief measurement, it doesn't have to be perfect. No one's going to come and measure. There's no wrong way to do it. You just do what you got to do. This is the end that I've cut. This is the drip emitter. This is where the magic happens. The barbed end goes into the plastic tubing and the flat end will go into the container. And that is a 1 gallon per hour emitter. You decide how much you want. You can play around with different flow rates. And here we go. That's the stake, and it just holds your emitter where you want it. And I believe it's very important for that because these emitters can move around, and you don't want to just throw them into the container and hope for the best, especially when you have about 30 of these babies. You want to make sure they stay where you put them. Very important. So there you have it. That's literally as long as it takes. I think we maybe took about a minute and a half for this, and I was going slowly here. And so you can see the line, and I'm just going to do the others here. We're going to speed it up a little bit for you so you can see me tackling the rest. So we're just getting this right side here, and it's just the same process that I just showed you over and over again. And we've got this sped up so it doesn't take too much of your time. This greenhouse I've had on my back porch for about 4 years now, and it has withstood several tropical storms and a hurricane that took down 100-year-old trees in my yard. So my dad put that down for me and used some steel straps and bricks, and those are 4x4s that it's sitting on with a bunch of brick and steel straps, and that's the reason it hasn't gone anywhere. I should probably make a video about that and what he did to do that because it's pretty awesome. It's not going anywhere, it would seem. So that's good. Here's the other side. You can see that I have there's a gap here, but there is a line. So when I created this I made sure to put this line here so that I could extend, and it simply is just going to mirror what we did on the other side. You can see how dry the soil is, so it desperately needs some water, and we're going to make it happen for these containers here. So I've got two here, and then I've got one tree that's in a container on the floor of the patio, and that one is going to also receive some water. You can see it down below. That is going to get a nice drink of water as well once it's connected. All right, here we are. We are in, we're moving quick, and we are grabbing our supplies and just hopping to it. It's not difficult at all. We're just going to cut the line, put our connectors in, and make sure that we've got the right length for each container, and we're just jamming those in. And you can see why it would be advantageous for you to have gloves, because when you're doing a lot of these, when I first set this up, if you go back in that April video and you see how I set it up, I probably had about 20 containers to set up. And when you're doing that number of these connections, and you're jamming that in like 3 or 4 times per container, it's really good to have gloves. So here we go. We're wrapping up on the left side. Okay, I have now completed the system, and I would like to show you what they look like, and then we'll go down and turn on the drip irrigation so we can test these. So here you see I have attached here, it goes up here to the drip irrigation emitter there. This container I connected here, feeds in down there into the center of the container. And again, the same right here, you can see the drip irrigation emitter there. And these each took about a minute and a half to put in. So once you get good at it, they go pretty quickly. And over on this side, you can see how dry this soil is. So this rosemary is going to benefit greatly from this. But you can see over here, when I first made this system, I made sure to leave this line because I knew I would want to add later, but I just didn't know what that would look like. So I connected this rosemary right here, and there's its emitter. This tree is also connected right here, and you can see the line is a little longer. It just goes down there. And then this container here with my tomatoes, basil, and struggling lettuce um, is in here as well. So there we go. We have everybody connected. And so the final thing to do is to test to make sure that it works. Okay, here is our system. We've got some spiders on there. This is the hose bib. This is the timer. This is the fertilization. The fertigation that I can put in here, I put fertilizer and it just meters out. This is the line that goes up, and you can see that's my patio. So here we go. Okay, here we go. Now we've got to tighten this up a bit. I'm leaking some water out, and that's to be expected. As the temperature changes, this will, hold on, let me fix that. Okay, here we are, guys. I fixed that leak down there. It was just a little, it's still leaking a fair amount. You can see how impossible this setup is, though. The hose bib is right next to the gutter, and I probably should add an extension to it so that all of that is not hugged right up against the house, so I can get some leverage and tighten it properly. But it's okay for now. I do need to fix it. Let's look here. Okay, let's look here. We have our drip emitter, and yes, it's getting wet there. That's awesome. Here we can even see the dripping happening, which is awesome. There we go. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure you check each of the pots that you add. And here we go. This guy really needs it. You want to make sure you check every single pot that you add before you walk away so that you know that it's happening the way it needs to. But these guys are getting some very welcome water. And so is that guy down there. So there you go. This project took maybe 30 minutes just because I was showing you what I was doing as I was doing it. But once you get good at it, you're going to be able to really blow through this pretty quickly. It's just a few simple steps to add to your existing drip irrigation system so that you can expand and water more plants with not really much effort on your part. And as always, I know you could have chosen to spend your time anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me, and I do appreciate it. Bye for now.